Ladies and gentlemen.
Turn your mic on.
Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. It is March 2nd. And I'm calling to order the March 2nd meeting of Planning and Zoning. Will everyone rise for a pledge of allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the United States of America, the Republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty, justice. Clerk, how are you this evening, and will you read the roll, please?
Chairwoman Spidell,
I am here.
Vice Chairman Richardson.
Here.
Secretary Grant.
Here.
Member Perez.
Here.
Member Rice.
Here.
Member Aton. Member Riley.
Here.
Alternate Member Faison. Alternate Member Childs.
Here.
Does it look like we need to ask Mr. Childs to be a member of the commission this evening? Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Okay. Approval of the minutes, please. The February 16th meeting. Do I have a motion?
I'd move to approve the minutes of February 16th.
Do I have a second, please?
I'll second for.
Thank you. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, there's just one minor change.
Yes,
It's
sir.
just a word on page 7 to 45. With something I said, it's recorded in the minutes as a plat plan. It was a plot. They didn't have a plat. It was a plot plan that they, that's the only thing I need to be.
So we need to change the O to an A, is that correct? O to an A? Another word. Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. Do I have a second or any other corrections? Any other discussion?
Second, although I think Woody already seconded it.
Okay. Any other discussion? Any other questions? Vote, please. Roll call.
Member Childs.
Yes.
Secretary Grant.
Yes.
Member Perez.
Yes.
Member Riley.
Yes.
Vice Chairman Richardson.
Yes.
Member Rice.
Yes.
Chairwoman Spidell.
Yes. I'd like to call Mr. Fontes to the podium. Do you want to come to the podium, sir? He has an important announcement.
Good evening, everyone. Before we begin, I did just want to let you guys know it's with great excitement and disappointment. Just want to let you guys know formally that I will be leaving the city of Titusville as a planner. I did accept a position with the town of Davie, located in Broward County, Florida, as a planner. So I'll be leaving here. My last day is March 11th. It's been a pleasure serving you guys and being able to get to know you guys on the side and everything else. But it's definitely sad leaving the city of Titusville. I do look forward to following you all and all that you guys do to help the city with its growth and everything that comes with it. So it's been a pleasure, and thank you all.
Thank you for your time.
Chairwoman, if I could just add real quick, the planning department does very much regret Mr. Fontes leaving us. He's been a great asset helping us with all types of cases, and he's done a great job. This is his first position out of school. You wouldn't know it. He's done a great job. So thank you.
Thank you, Eddie.
Thank you. We do. And I think Davie has a good high school football team still.
News to my ears. I had no clue. I'll be sure to check a game out, maybe.
As a planner for the city of David, you need to check that out.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll be sure to do so.
They may need a new stadium or something. I don't know. They come up here and beat us up sometimes.
Really?
Yes,
Oh,
yes.
that's
You
not
know, the history of this, of any place you go is important.
Football history. Sure to check it
Good
out.
luck.
Thank you.
We appreciate you. Okay. Can council read the rules of participation in the meeting, and if there's any quasi-judicial rules of participation in this meeting, please?
Yes, all persons who anticipate speaking on any public hearing item must fill out an oath card to be heard on that agenda item and sign the oath contained thereon. These cards are located on the table near the entrance to the council chamber or may be obtained from the recording secretary. This meeting will be conducted in accordance to the procedures adopted in Resolution Number 24-1997. Those speaking in favor of a request will be heard first, those opposed will be heard second, and those who wish to make a public comment on the item will speak third. The applicant may make a brief rebuttal if necessary. A representative from either side, for or against, may cross-examine a witness. Anyone who speaks is considered a witness. If you have photographs, sketches, or documents that you desire for the commission to consider, they must be submitted into evidence and will be retained by the city. Please submit such exhibits to the recording secretary. Please be advised that the following board members, Linwood V. Rice and Thomas Perez, are dual members for the Planning and Zoning Commission and the Titusville Environmental Commission, and these board members are permissible participants at each of these respective board meetings. As far as the agenda, there is one item that was quasi-judicial that has been withdrawn, and no further quasi-judicial items are on the agenda, so I will skip that dialogue.
Thank you. Does anyone need to disclose communication or substance of contract? I see none. Thank you very much. New business, so I don't do old business. Is that the item that's been withdrawn? 8A, staff,
Yes, that's correct.
I
Okay.
have some questions about that too.
Mr. Richardson?
Okay. First of all, as I recall, the meeting of the 2nd of February was called off because the applicant for SSA 1-2021 did not, that it was not advertised correctly. Is that right? That's why
The
meeting was canceled.
initial advertising for the item was improperly approved by the city, and the city did not want to proceed with a advertisement or notice issue. And so it was the city's call for that item to be postponed for a new advertisement, which did take place.
Okay, so it came up at our last meeting on February 16th, and Eddie, you're lucky you stepped out of City Hall in time. This room was packed, and Officer Willie counted, what, 94? 97 now. And they explained, the applicant explained, all he wanted to do was go around the trees that existed on the parcel to build 2 houses. Why did it require a small-scale amendment for that? Just to change the property line? You're passing the buck.
No, he's still needed.
So obviously being the one that was overseeing this project, the main reason why they chose to go the small scale route is between the conditions that would be imposed through the CUP process. The applicants did not want to go that route. And they, the R1B specifically zoning, they felt that that was best for, as far as the setbacks and the size of the homes, the proposed homes, they felt that that would work best with their zoning.
So is the staff still working with that applicant?
So at the moment, staff is still, the applicant has withdrawn the application. And as far as staff working with the applicant or not, there's nothing specifically that the staff is working with the applicant. There is language that is currently in the process of being revised as far as the ordinance and what the applicants needed to provide through the application. And this ordinance would change that language. So that's kind of what is being worked on at the moment.
Yeah, there was obviously some miscommunication between the applicant and all those residents of Wendover that.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Will we see 97 people again?
I'm not sure. More than likely, I'd say, just because they're a group of people that are highly interested in what transpires in the community. So I definitely wouldn't be surprised seeing that. Yeah, or live.
Thank you so much. New business, please. Staff.
Thank you, ma'am, and good evening, commissioners. This item begins on page 10 of 45, Home-Based Business Ordinance. During their 2021 legislative session, the Florida Legislature passed Chapter 2021-202, Laws of Florida, preempting the city from regulating certain home-based businesses. In general, the legislation requires that a home-based business may operate in any area zoned for residential use and may not be prohibited, restricted, regulated, or licensed in a manner that is different from other businesses in a local government's jurisdiction, except employees of the business who work at the residence must also reside in the residence, except that up to 2 employees or independent contractors may also work on site at the business. Parking must comply with local zoning regulations, and the parking demands may not be greater in volume than would normally be expected at a similar residence where no business is conducted. As viewed from the street, the residential property must conform to the residential character of the neighborhood. Activities of the business are secondary to the property's use as a dwelling, and nuisance activities must comply with all relevant local and state regulations with respect to signage, equipment, and resulting emissions from the business activity. The proposed ordinance is intended to bring the city's land development regulations into compliance with Florida statute. So just to summarize, this is an ordinance that's being brought forth to comply with state statute. The changes on the use table, which is on page, just a second. Page 13 of 45. You'll notice that the limitations for home-based businesses, if you're looking at the home-based business row, the only change there is allowing that use with limitations in the IRCN-C district. That's the Indian River City Commercial District. And the reason why that's important is because single-family dwellings are permitted, or residential dwellings are permitted in the IRCN-C. And so since we allow residential dwelling units in that zoning district, we also have to allow home-based businesses. So the L was added, that's why it's underlined and in red. And then last, the limitations that were previously in the code, the city had limitations on what home-based businesses had to abide by. Those criteria have been replaced with the criteria that I read that are from the state statute, so to be consistent with the state statute. So in short, this is just to make the land development code consistent with the requirements of the state statute.
What questions do we have from commissioners, please?
I have one.
Yes, sir.
Maybe probably skip a little here, but in the old ordinance, there were some businesses that was prohibited. I couldn't find any activity, well, other than the illegal items that's prohibited. Does that mean any business other than something that's illegal can be a home business?
Can you give me an example of what you consider illegal?
Well, it says here marijuana cultivation is one of them. I can understand that. Escort service or massage parlor, might understand that as well. As far as items that may be prohibited, but that's the way the old ordinance was. And in the Florida statute, I didn't see anything in that referenced illegal activity.
Yes, sir, that's a good point. So the state statute is very broad and doesn't issue limitations on specific uses. So to answer your question, that's not included in the ordinance. However, we are aware of legislation that is being proposed to amend that statute, the original statute that allowed home-based businesses to be permitted out in all residential areas. That would include some limitations on the types of uses that could be considered. So I think that the Florida legislature has realized that there may need to be some uses that are excluded from this.
So we'll be coming back making what you call amendments or whatever.
That's right. So if the statute changes, then we will bring the ordinance back to you.
Okay. Probably have another question, but later on. Go ahead. Thank you.
Clerk, are there any cards on this item? Oh, I'm sorry.
Just a couple of questions.
Okay.
Eddie, do you know why the Florida legislature passed this law to require everybody to be consistent with each other?
The only thing I'm aware of is that this came about when the pandemic was in full swing and there was a lot of concern about businesses being able to operate while not having full staffing and being able to be more business friendly. But as far as specifics on why this legislation came forward, I don't have that for you.
3F, trying to figure out what that meant,
Yes.
and I was hoping you could tell me the new part of 3F.
Yes, could you explain what that means?
Yes, ma'am. So my understanding is that that would prevent a home-based business from operating out of a shed or an accessory structure that's not the residential dwelling on the.
Oh.
So on page 45. F is stricken.
And based on what you just said, do you anticipate that so many people working remotely from their homes at this point, that this thing would apply to them? Let's say a family is working in the same business, but instead of going to the office, they're now at home. So this would apply to them.
We previously allowed home-based businesses, so I don't know that this would change anything for an office-type use, unless it's something that, well, I was going to say that the changes are not supposed to be visible from the street, like the residential character is supposed to remain the same. But if your question is more about, will this change the impact of this on the neighborhood? Is that the direction?
No, what I mean is, I mean, we all probably know people that work remotely in the last 2 years, various times because of the COVID. And I'm just wondering, is this ordinance that we're amending right now, or trying to amend, is that going to apply to those people?
I would say no, because the definition of a home-based business is a work activity carried on for profit or nonprofit purposes. And if you're working underneath somebody else's license or operation or business and working for them from home, that wouldn't be your business for profit or nonprofit.
Okay.
It would be for someone who is operating a business of their own from their home. Instead of working out of a nail salon, you're inviting your own clients to come to your house to do that work. And that's the scenario more so than working for another employer who has their own business
Sure,
license.
okay, I understand that, thank you. And then when I read the proposed ordinance, are you telling us that this just basically restates what the state statute required? Because
Yes, ma'am.
that's what it seemed to me when I read.
Correct.
There's nothing new thrown in there. It's just a basic ordinance with the requirements of the state
Right.
statute and applying, of course, to Titusville.
Removing the limitations that the city previously had and replacing them with the statute.
Okay, thank you.
I wanted to address one of Mr. Member Grant's concerns from a bit ago about the illegal activities. And the state statute does have a subsection that goes over those types of prohibitions that the city may already have. Under the statute is 559.955. It is subsection 2B. It says a home-based business that operates from a residential property as provided in this statute may not be prohibited, restricted, regulated, or licensed in a manner that is different from other businesses in the local government's jurisdiction except as otherwise provided in this section. So it's saying that any prohibitions that we've already had it, such as marijuana cultivation, can be consistent under the home-based business code of ordinances that we're amending.
Okay, I guess I was, never mind.
Mr. Childs, please.
Yeah, this is probably not planning and zoning, but since we're changing this and we don't really have much choice because it's the law already in the state, but are there any changes being done to, and I don't know what the permit for a home-based business is, but for, a regular retail store, you have, building and stuff and a fire inspection. Is that something that will be changing or that we already have? Do you know? I know you're not building department, but is that something that we, that city council might want to change to, or?
I'm not sure if you're asking for new or additional permitting requirements, but this ordinance is only intended to have an
Just for the
effect on
planning.
home-based businesses.
Right, so but now the home-based businesses are gonna allow, like our current ordinances, that you can't have people coming in and out of the house for like a salon or something like that, which, makes sense. But then if you change it to allow people to come into the home, wouldn't you also want to now have the fire inspector come in and check out everything, ADA compliance, or I don't know. I mean, that's, like I said, it might not be our, purview, but
I think that's a reasonable question. I don't know the answer, though, to
Yeah.
what the checklist of steps that the city takes in order to issue a license, if a fire inspection is required or not. I just don't have that information
right. Because
handy.
it just
but we could-
says here that they can't be treated differently than a regular business.
Sure, and
which-
we
yeah.
do those inspections
Right.
at other brick and mortar businesses, but I
Right.
just can't answer what the practice is for the
Or
home-based
what if
businesses.
or maybe they should change it, or we should change it, but I know that's not under us, but,
Sure.
okay.
Thank
All right.
you.
Thanks.
There is item 4, is no supplies or equipment shall be used in home-based businesses that create a fire or explosive hazard, electrical interference, noise, vibration, flares, etc. So maybe it's covered in that provision.
But then people don't know, we don't even know unless we inspect anyway. I mean, I'm not really all for more government intervention, but it's still a safety thing, and it makes sense to treat them, if they're gonna have customers come into their house, it makes sense to treat them the same as a retail location, and it's really just done for safety, so, anyway.
And if you also live next door to them.
Right, that too.
Okay. Anyone else, please? Now, clerk, do you have any cards on this item, please?
No, ma'am.
No? Okay. Do I have any more discussion from commissioners, please? Or any questions on this item? None? I see none. I call for a proposal, please.
I move we recommend approval of ordinance regarding home-based business. Have a ordinance number.
Does it need a number, sir?
It doesn't. You can say approve item 9A.
Okay.
Okay, recommend approval of ordinance relating to home-based businesses.
Thank you, Mr. Richardson. Do I have a second, please?
Second.
Thank you. Any further discussion or questions? Call for a vote, please.
Member Riley,
Yes.
Chairman Richardson,
Yes.
Member Perez,
Yes.
Member Childs,
Yes.
Secretary Grant,
Yes.
Member Rice,
Yes.
Chairwoman Spido.
Yes? Thank you. Moving on to item 9B, solar facility ordinance.
Thank you. On November 17th, 2021, the Planning and Zoning Commission reviewed the initial advertised version of the ordinance permitting solar facilities in the GU, general use, to heavy industrial zoning districts only. On November 23rd, 2021, Council considered that version of the ordinance and directed staff to expand the ordinance to include all industrial zoning districts. The ordinance has been re-advertised and reviewed by the Commission as requested. So again, just some history. This solar facility ordinance was born out of, based upon a statute change as well. The P&Z previously approved this 7-0 at the November 17th meeting, and council, upon their review, directed staff to redraft the ordinance to include an expansion of the solar facilities to be permitted in all industrial districts except the PID. So a version of the ordinance has been presented to you tonight with those changes.
Thank you, sir. Do we have any questions from the commissioner, please? Are there any cards on this item, clerk?
No, ma'am.
Have the commissioners taken time to read each item? Have there been, staff, has there been any changes at all from what we approved in November? Other than the addition?
Other than the additional industrial districts, no, ma'am.
That's the same. Okay. And is there a reason why it was changed, sir? Do we need to know that?
Just council's direction that they thought it was appropriate to include this use as a permitted use in the other industrial districts.
Thank you. Calling for recommendation of 9B solar facility ordinance, please.
Madam Chairman, I recommend approval of ordinance XX 2022 related to solar facilities.
Grant, do I have a second, please?
Second.
Any further discussion or questions? Mr. Rice, please.
You know, it just dawned on me. I just want to make sure, and I was reading the state statute again, but just because you have solar panels on your house doesn't make you a solar facility, right? I just want to make sure, because that would be a problem. Okay. When I read the state statute, it says for consumption off-site in the state statute. I just want to make sure that we're clear that if someone wants to put solar panels on their house for their own use, they're not a solar facility.
Mr. Richardson, please.
No.
No? Okay. Roll call?
Secretary Grant,
Yes.
Member Riley,
Yes.
Member Childs,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Richardson,
Yes.
Member Rice,
Yes.
Member Perez,
Yes.
Chairwoman Spidell.
Yes. Thank you, staff. Moving to item 9C, Townhouses Correction Ordinance, please.
Okay, last item. Ordinance number 22, 2020, amending section 28-81, townhomes, contained an error to include townhomes as a conditional use in the Indian River City neighborhood commercial zoning category. The proposed ordinance corrects this error by removing townhomes as a conditional use from the IRCNC zoning district. So again, this is just a correction ordinance. What we have is in our land development code, we have a group of tables and we have our use table. Use table is that master table that has all of the listed permitted uses or uses, and then all of the zoning districts. So it's a matrix. And then for each of the uses, we have a standalone table that shows you which districts it's allowed within. So this is correcting a conflict that we have between our master use list, our master use matrix, and the individual matrix that's just for townhomes, where it showed it was permitted in one district or permitted with a conditional use permit and not permitted in another.
Are there any questions from commissioners?
Could you just review?
Ms. Riley.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay.
Could you just review for me conditional use permit, what that means?
Sure. So in our use table, we have P, L, and C. Permitted, limited, permitted with limitations is the L, and permitted with a conditional use permit, a CUP, is the C. A conditional use permit is an additional process for certain uses that may have nuisances that may need to be mitigated for, and so it's an additional public hearing process to establish that use. For a CUP, the Planning and Zoning Commission has heard several, and then the P&Z issues a recommendation to council to approve or deny that CUP. So it's a use that's permitted, but there may be additional conditions that you want to impose upon that use. For example, a daycare that may have a playground, you may want to add an additional distance for that playground to be away from residences if you are concerned with a nuisance of noise factor of school children. So there's just certain uses may require an additional level of review, and you do that through the conditional use.
And the conditional use permit is usually what lands here, often lands here, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thanks.
Additional questions? Comments? Thank you, Ms. Riley. Call for a motion, please.
I'll move for approval of the townhome correction ordinance as written, staff.
Do I have a second, please?
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Member Perez,
Yes.
Member Rice,
Yes.
Member Riley,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Richardson,
Yes.
Member Childs.
Yes.
Secretary Grant,
Yes.
Chairwoman Spidell.
Yes. This looks like a cleanup session today, is it? A little mop and broom time? Congratulations, staff, for dusting things off for the new year. Thank you very much. Yeah, we'll see him again. Petitions and requests from the public present, please. I see none. Okay, city staff,
No report.
city attorney,
I have no update, thank you.
but you had a lovely time in Mexico.
I
Excellent.
have a question for you.
Mr. Richardson.
Well, as I've said, I have no life, so I watch all the city meetings on TV. At the recent Board of Adjustments and Appeals, it was very interesting. They had an applicant that came before them, and he had a thumb drive. And he stuck it in the computer there at the table that made this presentation. Now, we've gone through thumb drives before in the case of antenna, the cell phone antenna.
There wasn't a thumb drive provided to this table. It was, I think, previously provided to the media staff. It was emailed.
Okay, so if an applicant needs to have a presentation, or anyone needs to have a presentation, they should email.
They should coordinate with the staff liaison that they're working with. I don't want to speak for everyone in every department because I don't know exactly how everybody operates, but I know that the items need to be in a format that our media services can interpret on the computers in the back room, that once we have an email or PDF or whatever the version is that we can open on a computer, then we can put it on the drive where that's accessed by our media department. So I don't personally coordinate that, but the staff person working with the applicant would be the person who could better answer that question.
You answered my question, thank you.
Any additional questions? Member Perez, please.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, okay, thank you. And chairperson's comments, only that, again, we wish Mr. Fontes Godspeed. Right. Is it near South Beach? Is it on the beach? Are you planning property on the beach? How many bedrooms will there be? We just need to know where you're going, what you're going to be doing.
Is it listed on Airbnb?
Yeah. How many miles? Thank you. Stay in touch. We wish you all the best. Thank you, and thank you for the time you've spent here. With those comments, it is March 2nd. I'm adjourning this meeting of Planning and Zoning, and thank you so much for your attendance and your intelligent questions. Good night.